Now, after the Republicans and some Democrats pointed their fingers at Bernie Sanders and his rhetoric for the attack on Republican congressmen and staffers at the baseball field in Virginia, Jane O'Meara Sanders decided to show up on CNN in order to push back against that narrative. Now, Mediaite reported that Sanders was appearing as part of a discussion on this ambush shooting of members of the Republican charity baseball game in Virginia. Now, Blitzer had asked if her husband went too far in his criticisms of Donald Trump, where he said that Trump was, quote, the worst and most dangerous president the U.S. has ever had. Let's get her response.
Now, dangerous, I mean, when you throw 23 million people off of health care without even a hearing, that's dangerous to those 23 million people. We have to be able to discuss the issues without demonizing the opponent. And honestly, Wolf, I think the media needs to look at itself as well. The media, it characterizes every conversation as an adversarial one. Your job, the media's job, I think, is to illuminate the facts, not fan the flames. And the media continues to cover the latest scandal, the latest back and forth, but not the issues.
All right, so that right there, I think, is one of the best criticisms of the media. They don't talk about issues or about policy. It's about, hey, what's the latest tweet from Donald Trump, the latest hot take? What is the latest scandal that we can cover? Oh, did a plane disappear? Let's go and speculate about it for 24 hours a day, or 23 hours out of the day. Yeah, you all remember that, right? And look, some of those stories, admittedly, they're kind of fun to do. I've done a tweet story, I admit it, and they certainly do get a lot of views. They certainly do get a lot of ratings. But maybe in between that, maybe squeeze a little bit of policy, you know, or some sort of discussion on issues into that somewhere too. That'd be nice. Now, for example, let's talk about the effect of Trump Care on millions of Americans. Let's talk about how they're pushing that bill through in secret. Let's talk about how DAPL has had multiple spills. Let's talk about the Flint water crisis. There's a lot of things to talk about. And since you're a 24-hour news network, you should be able to cover all of them. Now, I realize, again, CNN is a 24-hour news station, and you do have to fill time. Great. Fill some of that time with substance. Trust me, you'd be better off if you did so. Now, of course, Wolf Blitzer did not take kindly to this criticism from Jane Sanders, and he's going to not only interrupt her, but he's also going to use that time to defend CNN.
So much.
But let me interrupt, Jane. With all due respect, if a president or a senator or someone of authority is making very, very strong statements, you want us to simply ignore those statements? If there's a social media post, a tweet, and the president says something really, really strong, or Senator Bernie Sanders says this is the worst and most dangerous president in the history of our country, do you want us to censor those words as part of the news media? What are you suggesting?
No. Well, I'm suggesting that just like the Democrats and the Republicans and the Independents and the Progressives are all thinking about what happened in this presidential race, that the media needs to do some self-reflection as well.
Self-reflection. Basically, she's being super nice and saying your coverage is you should look at the kind of stuff that you would cover before, because in a way that helped to that rhetoric. That helped get Donald Trump elected. Now, she wasn't saying that you shouldn't cover some of these issues, right? What she's saying is that you need to cover the issues that are important to regular people, regular working people, or at least cover people who talk about those issues, right? Now, and that's where CNN unfortunately failed. See, let me give you an example. Instead of covering speeches by, for example, Bernie Sanders had speeches that were chock full of policy and chock full of issues. Now, what happened when Bernie Sanders would make a speech? Well, CNN would cut away, and I've seen this, to an empty podium of Donald Trump. Seriously, that's what they would do. Now, do you think, honestly, this was 100% because of ratings? Not necessarily. I'm sure it had something to do with it. But let me tell you, at first when Donald Trump was running, he actually had to pay people to go to his rallies. I'm not kidding. He paid people to go to his rallies. And then he was, thanks to the Podesta emails, propped up by corporate media. Now, let me go to Slate for this, saying that in its self-described Pied Piper strategy, the Clinton campaign proposed intentionally cultivating extreme right-wing presidential candidates, hoping to turn them into the new mainstream of the Republican Party, in order to try to increase Clinton's chances of winning. The Clinton campaign and Democratic National Committee called for using far-right candidates as a cudgel to move the more established candidates further to the right. Clinton's camp insisted that Trump and other extremists should be elevated to leaders of the pack, and that media outlets should be told to take them seriously. Media outlets like CNN. So that was the plan. Hey, news media, elevate Trump. Put him up here. Make him, give him airtime. Give him $7 billion worth of free media. Let's go. So we can actually get this guy, the face of the Republican Party, and then we can crush them. Well, what happened? It backfired bigly. Thanks to the media, Donald Trump started getting a lot more crowds. He had to, he could stop paying people to go to his to his rallies, because the people saw his ideas and were like, oh, I like that guy. Well, I like when he says ban the Muslims. I like when he says to, throw the protesters out. I like when he says all this stuff. I'm going to go to his rallies. And that's what happened. That's how he started drawing those really large crowds. Because the media actually took him seriously. And that's the problem. Now, Bernie Sanders, however, started with small crowds. He didn't have to pay anybody. And they came because of his message. And thanks to his message, those crowds started getting bigger and bigger naturally. And that is despite the media not covering him until they were forced into doing it. I remember the Bernie blackout. You guys remember the Bernie blackout. Mainstream news. No, he's a socialist. We're not going to cover him. He's getting no buzz. Really? He's starting to draw huge crowds everywhere he goes. And you're not going to cover that. No, we'll cut to an empty podium of Donald Trump. Come on, man. They were forced into doing that. The result, of course, is Trump was propped up by these channels, CNN, CBS, MSNBC, etc. I mean, look, they have a financial stake in doing so as well. Remember, when the head of CBS, Leslie Moonves, told investors that Trump might be bad for America, but boy, he'd be great for CBS. Yeah, and look, he has delivered. He's delivered great ratings, especially for MSNBC, to be honest. So many people now are watching MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, etc. I mean, they're starting to beat Fox News, which is crazy. But boy, have they delivered for the TV networks. And they've delivered for CNN. Now imagine what might have happened had they not propped up Trump for Hillary. And instead actually covered people like Bernie Sanders fairly. You know what could have happened? Trump might not have risen. We could have Hillary Clinton. Or, if they covered Bernie fairly, there's a good chance that we could have Bernie Sanders instead of the shit show that we have right now. Now, I'm not saying that's 100% media's fault for Donald Trump. That's not what I'm saying. But they do deserve a big part of the blame. Clinton, however, deserves arrest for being an incredibly weak, flawed candidate. And that's another big reason why we have Trump. But for sure, again, part of the media strategy for the Clinton campaign was to get their friends in the media to prop him up so that she would have a better time. So Clinton deserves a much bigger share of this, of the blame for elevating Donald Trump, because she just told her friends in the media, hey, do this for me. Do me a solid and elevate Donald Trump. Make sure he wins. Bad mistake on that part. Now, Jane and Bernie, however, look, they were the people that were saying all along, hey, don't do that. Give everybody fair coverage. Don't just focus on this guy. He's a clown. Don't cover him nearly as much, and actually cover the issues. Talk about the issues. That's what Bernie and Jane have been saying all along. So if anybody was fanning the flames of hate and division from Donald Trump, It is the mainstream corporate TV that was told to treat Trump as a serious candidate, while minimizing the hopeful messages of Bernie Sanders and other candidates. And for that, I think the media needs to do a lot more than just self-reflection. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.